Have you ever felt that a single word, look, or gesture was enough to steal your peace, as if someone pressed an invisible button inside you and suddenly you were reacting angry, hurt, unbalanced? But what if I told you that true power is not in what the other does, but in how you choose to respond? Today, I'm going to reveal to you one of the most transformative teachings of Buddhism, the art of not letting yourself be provoked. An understanding that not only protects you, but frees you. Because when you stop reacting, you begin to live from awareness, not from the ego. And if this message is already resonating with you, I invite you to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. This video is more than information. It is a spiritual medicine for those who no longer want to be slaves to other people's emotions. Let us begin on the dusty paths of ancient India, where wisdom was transmitted not with shouts but with silence and metaphors. The Buddha gathered his disciples under the shade of a tree. One of them, deeply unsettled, asked him insistently, "Master, if someone offends me, should I not seek justice? Should I not know who it was and why they did it?" Then the Buddha told this story. A man was walking through the forest when suddenly he was struck by an arrow. He fell to the ground with his chest wounded, his breathing broken, pain passing through his body like slow fire. But instead of asking for help, he began to ask questions. Who shot this arrow? Was it bamboo or sandalwood? Did it have eagle feathers or peacock feathers? Was the one who shot it tall or short? A warrior or a hunter? The man demanded answers. He wanted to understand. He wanted justice. Then the Buddha paused and said serenely, "But if you do not remove the arrow, you will die. The cause matters less than the poison that consumes you." And so it is with provocation. It is not the external gesture that hurts us most. It is what we decide to hold internally. Each hurtful word, each look loaded with judgment, each attitude we feel as unjust is an arrow. But true suffering begins when we do not let it go. When we keep asking ourselves why they did it, what they meant, how they could do that to me, we forget what is most urgent: to heal, to free ourselves. Provocation is not what is thrown at you. It is the choice to remain trapped in it. The greatest freedom is not doing whatever you want. It is not reacting to what others do. And this, in Buddhism, is trained, not pretended. It is practiced. Let us look at the essential principles to understand this transformative teaching. Teaching 1, everything that provokes you lives within you. On the path of self-knowledge and spiritual practice, one of the most revealing truths is that nothing external has true power over us, except that which already lives inside. When someone hurts us with a word, a gesture, or an attitude, we tend to blame the other person for our pain. However, if we observe carefully, we will discover that the true origin of suffering is not outside, but within us. Provocation only hurts when it finds an echo in an inner wound. That is to say, if someone says something offensive to you and it affects you deeply, it is not so much because of the truth or malice of their words, but because within you there exists an insecurity, an unresolved experience, a memory that has not yet healed. The emotional reaction then becomes a valuable signal, a wake-up call from your inner world. The wise, those who have dedicated their lives to knowing themselves, do not react to provocation, not because they are cold or indifferent, but because they have understood that every strong emotion is an opportunity to heal. They observe without judging. They do not rush to respond, but instead ask themselves, which part of me has been touched by this? Why does this affect me? What wound is asking for attention instead of projecting blame outward? They redirect their gaze inward. Instead of defending themselves, they listen. Instead of attacking, they breathe. In this way, every difficult encounter becomes a teacher, every annoyance a mirror, and every person who makes us uncomfortable an opportunity to grow. True emotional freedom does not lie in preventing others from hurting us, but in learning to heal what within us allows those wounds to open. Only when we have worked on our own shadows can we walk through the world without being dragged by reactivity. Then, words no longer hurt, provocations no longer disturb, and silence becomes a profound form of understanding. Because deep down, everything that provokes us lives within us, and everything that lives within us can be healed. Teaching 2. Response is not weakness. It is mastery. We live in a culture where speed of response is valued, where the one who does not allow themselves to be stepped on is admired, and where putting someone in their place is synonymous with strength. In debates, on social media, in everyday discussions, it seems that the one who remains silent loses, and that silence is a sign of weakness. But this view is not universal. From the perspective of Buddhist philosophy, that automatic reaction is not strength. It is disconnection. The one who reacts loses, not against the other, but against themselves. When someone offends us, contradicts us, or challenges us, the easiest thing is to return the word, raise the tone, or defend the ego. But that immediate reaction arises from the conditioned mind, from unobserved emotion, from impulse, and acting from impulse is precisely the opposite of acting from awareness. Mastering your response is not staying silent out of fear. It is speaking from presence. It is giving yourself the sacred space between stimulus and reaction. In that space, you can choose. You can observe which emotions are stirring, which thoughts arise, which part of your ego feels attacked. And from there, you can decide how to act, whether to act or whether to simply let go. True mastery is not in having the last word, but in not needing it. It is not in imposing your view, but in understanding that there is nothing to defend when you are at peace with yourself. The one who masters their response does not submit. They free themselves. This attitude is not passivity. It is not allowing oneself to be trampled or resigning oneself. It is the highest expression of self-control, of wisdom, of mastery over karma. Because every time you choose not to react from the ego, you are cutting a chain of cause and effect that would keep you trapped in a cycle of conflict and suffering. Responding with awareness is sowing peace instead of war. It is building bridges instead of walls. It is choosing compassion over pride. In a world that shouts, the silence of the wise is heard more loudly. In a world that reacts, the one who responds from calm shines like a beacon. So do not fear appearing weak for remaining silent or for choosing serenity. On the contrary, that is where your true strength is born. Because in the moment you can look at the other without ceasing to see your interior. You have conquered something far more valuable than an argument. You have conquered your freedom. Teaching 3. No one makes you angry. You make yourself angry. This is one of the most challenging and at the same time most liberating teachings of the Buddhist path. No one makes you angry. You make yourself angry. At first, it sounds harsh, unfair even. How can it be that I get angry on my own if it was the other who shouted at me or offended me or betrayed me? And yes, it is true that there are external gestures that hurt, words that wound, actions that unsettle. But the Buddha was not speaking of denying reality. He was speaking of transcending it. Anger is not in what happens. It is in how you interpret it, how you absorb it, how you hold it. It is not a blame. It is a power. When you understand that no one has control over your peace, you begin to live in a different way. You begin to live without hatred because you no longer need to react from the wound. You learn to listen without absorbing because you know that what the other says speaks more of their state than of yours. You begin to breathe before acting because awareness has replaced impulse, and that is inner freedom. Anger does not arise from the other. It arises within you. The other may be the trigger, but you decide whether you pull the emotional trigger or lower the weapon of judgment. When someone provokes you and you manage not to react, it is not weakness. It is emotional mastery. It is like watching a storm from a sacred cave. You hear the noise, but you do not get wet. In Buddhist practice, anger is considered one of the three poisons of the mind, along with greed and ignorance. And the antidote is not to repress it. It is to observe it, understand it, dissolve it from within. Because when anger finds no fuel inside you, it simply goes out. No one controls you unless you hand over the reins. This teaching is not meant to make you feel bad. It is meant to empower you. It tells you you can choose peace instead of drama. Choose clarity instead of reaction. Choose wisdom instead of noise. And that is awakening. Teaching 4, provocation as a teacher. There are people who come into our lives and seem to have the gift of touching our most sensitive points. Sometimes it is a look, other times an attitude. A criticism, a gesture of indifference. And without realizing it, something is activated within us. Pain, anger, sadness, insecurity. But Buddhism invites us to see beyond impulse, to pause and to ask ourselves with compassion, which part of me is being touched? What old wound is manifesting here? Because although it may seem otherwise, that person is not your enemy. They are your teacher. Provocation is not an offense. It is a signal that something within you is still asking for attention, healing, understanding. It is not easy to see the world this way. The ego prefers to blame, reject, defend itself. But the soul, the awakened soul, asks itself, what can I learn from this? On the Buddhist path, it is said that others are our mirrors. They do not reflect exactly what we are, but rather what we still need to look at. When someone activates an intense emotion in you, it is not only because of what they did. It is because in some way they connected with something unresolved within you. And that is not bad. It is an opportunity, a call, a teacher disguised as chaos. So the next time something bothers you, breathe. Do not run away from the emotion. Feel it. Observe what it shows you. Not to react, but to reveal what still needs your light. As a Zen master once said, the enemy is not the one who hurts you, but the one who teaches you without intending to. When you look at conflict this way, something changes. You no longer persecute yourself for what you feel. You no longer flee from discomfort. And little by little, you transform your wounds into understanding, and that is true spiritual alchemy. Teaching 5. Breathing is resisting the ego. In the instant when someone provokes you, everything inside you wants to react. Your body tenses. Your thoughts accelerate. Your words fill with fire. It is the ego wanting to respond, to defend itself, to win. But right there, in that sacred second between the stimulus and your response, you have a silent, immense, transformative power. Breathing is not only a biological act, it is a spiritual act. When you choose to breathe before reacting, you are saying without words, I am not going to surrender my peace to this moment. My calm is worth more than an argument. I do not need to be right if I lose my center. The Buddha taught that the mind is like a restless monkey. It jumps from thought to thought, from emotion to emotion. But with a deep breath, you can invite it to sit, to observe, to remain in silence. Breathing in the face of provocation does not mean that you approve of what is happening. It means that you decide how to act, not your wounded ego. Each inhalation is a pause, each exhalation a way of letting go. And in that subtle space you create by breathing, there is something miraculous. The freedom of not being dragged by the old impulse. The next time you feel something ignite inside you, do not respond immediately. Breathe. Do it 3 times. Do it with intention, and you will see that you are no longer at war. You are within yourself. Because conscious breathing is the most silent way to disarm the ego. And by doing so, you take control not of the situation, but of your inner world. That is true spiritual mastery. Teaching 6. The one who provokes is asking for peace from their pain. There are people who seem to live ready to attack. A single word, a gesture, a difference is enough, and they launch criticism, sarcasm, humiliations. But when you observe with the eyes of the soul, you understand something very profound. No one hurts from peace. One only hurts from the wound. The one who provokes, shouts, or manipulates is not expressing power, but lack, an unresolved emptiness, an inner chaos seeking to project itself outward. Sometimes contempt is a mask for insecurity, sarcasm, a defense against fear, and constant criticism, a silent cry from someone who does not know how to ask for help. In Buddhism, we are invited not to take offenses personally, because in most cases, they are not about you. They are about the other. As the Buddha taught, hatred is not extinguished by hatred. Only love dissolves it. This is an eternal law. When someone tries to provoke you, remember this. You are seeing their behavior, but not their story. You do not know what pain inhabits them, what they were taught about love, what battles they are losing inside while they pretend to be in control. And from your awareness, you can choose something different. Not to respond with more pain, not to stay to receive what you do not deserve, but also not to contaminate yourself with their poison. The most compassionate act sometimes is not to correct, nor to teach, nor to confront. It is simply not to absolve. Because understanding another's pain does not mean justifying it, but it does free you from carrying it as your own. And when you choose to respond from compassion or even from silence, you are not only protecting your peace, you are planting another possibility in the world. A possibility where love is not spoken. It is practiced even in the face of shadow. Teaching 7. Care for your aura like a garden. Imagine your energy as a sacred garden, a living, delicate space, full of inner beauty, but also vulnerable to those who enter without awareness. Your aura, that subtle field that surrounds you, is not just a part of you. It is the reflection of your spiritual, emotional, and mental state. And just as you would not allow just anyone to walk with dirty shoes through a temple, neither should you allow just anyone to access your inner world without respect. In modern life, many people seek the energy of others to sustain themselves, not always consciously. But when someone provokes, manipulates, or pushes you to react, they are not seeking truth. They are seeking energetic nourishment. Because every time you react from anger, guilt, or judgment, you are giving a piece of your energy to someone who deserves it least. Caring for your aura is not selfishness. It is applied spirituality. In Eastern wisdom, we are taught that protecting the energetic field is as important as caring for the body or the mind. This is done through silence, through conscious choice, through breathing, meditation, and also through boundaries. And a loving boundary is also a blessing. When you say no with firmness and peace, you are not pushing others away. You are drawing closer to yourself. Remember this. Not everyone deserves to know your calm. Not everyone has done the inner work required to coexist with your light. And not everyone will know how to care for the energy that you have taken years to purify. For this reason, do not argue with someone who only wants to steal your center. Do not respond from a place where you do not wish to vibrate again. Do not open yourself to those who have already shown that they do not know how to care for even their own garden. You are here to bloom, and a garden does not open itself to chaos. It opens itself to the sun, to the rain, to those who arrive with respect and gratitude. Teaching 8. When you do not react, karma stops. In the Buddhist view of the world, every action, word, and thought generates a seed. That is what we call karma, the universal law of cause and effect. What you do, even what you think, returns sooner or later. But there is something even more powerful than acting well. It is not reacting from the ego. Because every time someone provokes you and you respond from pride, anger, or the desire to be right, you are not resolving the conflict. You are feeding the cycle. That cycle of action and reaction becomes a wheel that spins endlessly, where pain multiplies and the soul becomes exhausted. But when you choose conscious silence, when you breathe and observe before responding, when you release the need to defend yourself or return the wound, you do something revolutionary. You stop karma. And that, in spiritual terms, is alchemy. Not reacting is not weakness. It is not resignation. It is not letting others walk all over you. It is active wisdom. It is elevated awareness. It is transforming a destructive emotion into silent light. In the teachings of the Buddha, it is said that a trained mind is like a serene lake. Even if stones fall into it, the waters soon return to calm. Not through repression, but through understanding, because you know that the other person's pain is not yours. Because you have understood that inner peace is worth more than any external victory. Because you no longer need to react. Because you are no longer reacting from your wounds. So the next time someone tries to drag you into their storm, choose to be the ocean. Breathe, observe, remain silent if necessary, and remember, when you do not react, karma is left without fuel and the cycle dissolves. That not only heals your present, it also frees your future. Teaching 9. Your silence transforms more than 1,000 words. There is a kind of presence that does not need to raise its voice, does not seek to convince, does not want to be right. And yet, when it enters a room, something changes. It is the presence of the wise, of the soul at peace, of the one who no longer reacts, because they have understood that their silence is medicine. In the Buddhist tradition, it is said that true silence is not the absence of words, it is presence without ego. It is the calm that is born from having crossed many storms and not having sunk in any of them. When you choose not to react to provocation, when you do not fall into the trap of conflict or the game of the ego that seeks a fight, you are not avoiding, you are transcending, because you understand that your peace is not a luxury. It is an act of spiritual self-care. And the most beautiful thing is this, that silence, that calm, has an expansive effect. It transforms without imposing, radiates without speaking, makes others reflect without the need to argue. In Zen monasteries, many masters correct their disciples only with a look, with a gesture, with a cup served without words. Because when energy is aligned, explanations are not needed. Truth is felt, it spreads, it becomes example. So when someone tries to drag you into conflict, remember that your silence is a conscious choice. It is not fear. It is not weakness. It is active wisdom. Not everything deserves a response. Not everything deserves defense. Sometimes the greatest act of power is to look with compassion and remain silent. And that silence not only heals you, it is an offering of peace to a world that shouts without listening. Teaching 10. The master is not the one who teaches, but the one who does not react. On the spiritual path, we have been led to believe that the master is the one who speaks the most, who knows the most, who guides the most. But Buddhism reveals something much more subtle. The true master is not the one who teaches. It is the one who does not react. Why? Because awakening is not measured by the books you have read or the concepts you can explain, but by your ability to remain present when everything inside you screams to explode. You can remain calm when you are provoked. You can breathe deeply when someone seeks to drag you into conflict. You can see the wound of the other without turning it into your own wound. Right there. Precisely there. True mastery begins. The wise one does not react, not because they do not feel. They do feel, but they choose. They choose not to hurt. They choose not to feed the cycle of pain. They choose compassion over ego. The master knows they do not need to prove anything because they have already transcended the inner battle. They do not seek to be right. They do not need to impose themselves. Their power lies in their equanimity, their teaching in their silent example. In ancient texts, it is told that the Buddha was insulted by a man full of anger. The Buddha, in silence, simply looked at him. When the man finished, the Buddha said to him, "If someone offers you a gift and you do not accept it, to whom does the gift belong?" The man replied, "To the one who offered it." Then the Buddha said, "The same happens with your anger. I do not accept it. It remains yours." That is how it is. The master does not allow himself to be dragged by another's fire. He does not allow external chaos to stir his inner ocean. And that is the deepest teaching. Wisdom is not in what you express, but in what you choose not to carry. So now you know, the true master does not react because he has learned to observe his mind before acting, because he has understood that his energy is sacred and that not everything deserves a response. And you too can cultivate that peace. But understanding it is not enough. It must be felt, integrated, anchored within you. That is why now I want to invite you to close your eyes for a moment, to bring your attention to your breathing and repeat with me these words that are not just affirmations. They are seeds of spiritual power that can transform the way you inhabit the world. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and repeat with an open heart. I choose to respond with wisdom. I am not my reaction. I am the consciousness that observes it. No one has the power to take away the peace I cultivate within. My silence is strength. My calm is my protection. Feel how each affirmation not only repeats in your mind, but begins to vibrate in your energy. They are more than words. They are reminders of who you are when you are not reacting, but inhabiting your center. And from that center, from that inner calm that you are already cultivating. Today, you have remembered something profound. No one can provoke you if you do not give them that permission. Your peace is not negotiable. Your energy is sacred. And your presence, when it is rooted in inner silence, is impenetrable. If this message touched something in you, give it a like. Share this video with someone who needs to reconnect with their center and subscribe to the channel. Here we continue walking together among Zen stories, ancestral wisdom, and real spiritual transformation. Tell me in the comments, have you ever felt the power of not reacting? What happened when you chose conscious silence? Always remember, you do not need to prove your peace. Only live it. See you in the next video. A hug of light.